joint effort of Baker Donelson, the Nashville Chamber's International Business Council, the Tennessee World Affairs Council, the Japan American Society of Tennessee, and the Center for International Business at Belmont University. And I encourage all of you to check out the World Affairs Council webpage, as they have made a real seamless transition to virtual programming focused on global affairs as a result of the pandemic. And they are doing and producing multiple events, virtual events, during the course of each week. And they're all just some fantastic speakers as well as topics. And you can find these programs are on the TENWAC website. So please, I'm sorry, on their YouTube page. So please check that out if you get the chance. And the Chamber and Baker have both been actively engaging experts to provide programming on navigating a business during these unprecedented times. So also, please look at our websites for more information on upcoming programs, and also the programming that we have produced in the past also have been archived. So you go to both of our websites and you'll see a whole list of programming on a whole variety of topics that I think you'll find very helpful as we are all trying to adjust to this new normal as a result of the pandemic, and as we all try to kind of re-engage in our businesses. Next, I'd like to take a minute to just thank and recognize our sponsors that who have made our program today possible. So Baker Donelson is the IBC's presenting sponsor, and we appreciate the opportunity to partner with the Chamber on these international business events. Pivotal partners include Delic U.S. Holdings, Bass, Berry & Sims, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, Community Health Systems, Gresham Smith, and Regions. So our supporting sponsors are Bank of America, the Center for International Business at Belmont University, the Nashville International Airport, and also Mitsui and Company, or Mitsui USA. And finally, our media partner, the Nashville Post. So now I'm going to pass it on to Ralph Schultz, President and CEO of the Nashville Chamber, to introduce our speaker this morning. Ralph, good morning.
Well, thank you, John, and we appreciate the partnership that we've had with you over the years, Baker Donelson, and we thank all the sponsors, and thank you for being a sponsor. And I do just want to say here at the beginning, appreciate the work that Lori does with all of our partners to make sure that we're all hitting on all eight cylinders, or maybe 6 cylinders, maybe 4 cylinders, to have Nashville have the international opportunity that we have. To all of you as members, your investment is fueling the Chamber's economic recovery work. That's so important right now, and it's helping us keep the critical international connections in place as we all go through this these unique challenges of the present time. Today's Global Update webinar features the Consul-General of Japan in Nashville, Ms. Kayoko Fukushima. Consul General, thank you in advance for making the time to join us this morning for an update on the U.S. and Japan business relationship and Japan's response to COVID-19. Japan and Nashville, the region, have had a long history of friendship and cooperation and collaboration. Our economic connections go back decades with the Japanese-owned companies like Nissan and Bridgestone and Mitsubishi making Nashville their North American headquarters. One of the things that we especially appreciate is that over 19,000 Middle Tennesseans go to work each day in our Japanese-owned companies. Japan is the state and the region's largest foreign direct investor nation, both by job creation and capital investment. And to put some context around exactly what that means, we'd have to add up the jobs created by the next 4 countries to get close to Japan's 19,000 jobs that are generated here. The roots of our relationship may have been built on business connections, but it is the people who have made this relationship flourish. And the key person in building that relationship for Japan is Consul-General Fukushima. Consul-General Fukushima assumed her role as the Consul-General of Japan in Nashville in December 2019. Her consulate services the states of Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee, and we are particularly pleased that her office is here in Nashville. This is her third diplomatic posting in the United States. She's held a variety of posts at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Tokyo and has extensive experience working with the United Nations, having served as the founding director of the UN Women-Japan Liaison Office based in Tokyo. She's been an incredible addition to the Nashville community. We've been very pleased to work with her and know her from the start. I'm honored to call her a friend. And with that all being said, I'm going to turn it over to Consul General Fukushima. Thank you, Consul General.
Thank you, Ralph and John. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your participation today. I'd like to express my sincere thanks to the National Chamber's International Business Council, Baker Donelson, World Affairs Council, JUST, and Belmont University, and various partners and sponsors for today's opportunity. Taking a look at Japan-US relations, Japan and the US are incomparable allies that share both basic values such as freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, as well as strategic interests. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the Japan-US Security Treaty. Japan is the US's best partner in the Indo-Pacific region. Through the robust relationship of trust between the two countries, the Japan-US alliance is now stronger than ever before. Next slide, please. Thank you. On the economic front, Japan is also an important partner of the US. Japan's investment in the US is approximately $480 billion, and Japan is the #1 investor in the US. Japanese companies also provide employment for approximately 880,000 people across the US. Focusing on Japan-Tennessee economic relations, Japanese companies have about 200 branches in Tennessee and create jobs for about 52,000 people. Japan is the #1 investor of foreign direct investment in Tennessee as well, and it is with over $19 billion in total capital investment. Through the Japan-US trade agreement that entered into force in January this year, we expect trade between Japan and the US to further develop in a stable and win-win manner. This agreement will make it easier for American people to enjoy Japanese products such as sake and Wagyu beef. I hope you will enjoy them too. The Japan-US trade agreement lowered tariffs for US beef and pork significantly. We hope that the economic relationship with Tennessee, which is home to many stock breeders, will be strengthened even further. As the COVID-19 spreaded, quite a few Japanese companies in Tennessee, as well as those in other states of the consulate's jurisdiction, are obliged to suspend or reduce their operations. Under those circumstances, some Japanese companies are making various voluntary contributions to local communities. For example, Nissan assembled and donated face shields to Franklin and other local areas. Denso made face shields and contributed to the local hospitals. Toyota made donations to various United Way offices and local organizations. Toyota also produced and donated face shields to local organizations, including Vanderbilt Medical Center. Bridgestone Americas has fabricated face shields and ear savers to local hospitals and so on. In addition, Bridges Americas donated its funds to a national organization that is Boys and Girls Club. The club provides child care services such as learning programs and access to meals for children of essential workers. Next slide, please. The COVID-19 changed our lives, and it has become a matter of concern. Firstly, I will explain the situation in Japan and how Japan is coping with the pandemic. I would also like to share with you how Japan is doing in the international context. Next slide, please. This slide shows the number of newly confirmed cases in Japan. You can see the downward trend. As of today, it is reported that 816 COVID-19 patients and 968 deaths are reported in Japan. The current number of confirmed cases in Japan is 18,110. In the last 2 weeks, the numbers of newly confirmed cases per day are in the range of 20s to 90s. Next slide, please. This shows cases by countries. You can see that Japan is keeping a very low level of infection. Next slide, please. This is the test capacity in Japan. The pink marked one is the number of capacity, and the blue is the number of tests actually conducted. Prime Minister Abe declared state of emergency on April 7th and lifted it on May 25th as a result of steady decrease in number of patients. We are now entering into the new normal of our lifestyle, which includes 3 basic infection prevention measures, that is, keeping physical distance, wearing masks, and washing hands. I'd like to show you some unique videos and pictures of new lifestyle in Japan. Next slide, please. Okay, this shows masks with ice packs from vending machines. Okay, this is the way to stay cool in summer. And next slide, please. Thank you. This shows virtual security guard. When visitor arrives, he or she will be met by the virtual security guard, and temperature is checked. If the temperature is above 37.5 centigrade or 99.5 Fahrenheit, he will be checked closely person. And this reduces the the problem of labor shortage and also the risk of infection. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, these are masks made of swimsuit materials. Next picture, please. Okay, this is a virtual shopping of school backpack at a department store in Tokyo. Sorry, that's a different picture. Next, please. Okay, next, please. This is a QR code at Japanese restaurants. Instead of using paper menus and invoices, restaurants offer using QR codes for order and payment. Thank you. It's expected that with the new normal life being introduced, telework will be promoted in Japan. It's been just reported today that some companies like Hitachi, Fujitsu, and Kaobe will promote telework to make it their basic work style. Now, I would like to explain the Japanese government's measures to support its economy. The government has announced the emergency economic measures for response to COVID-19 to protect the lives and lifestyles of the public and move towards economic recovery. The measures include cash payment of 100,000 yen, which is approximately $930 each, to all residents in Japan, and cash payments up to 2 million yen, which is approximately $18,700 each, to micro, small, and medium-sized business, and up to 1 million yen to individual business owners. Additionally, the government has announced the second supplementary budget, which includes measures to reinforce medical system to support students, to sustain continuation of employment and business operations. The total of the government measures is amounting to 233.9 trillion yen, that is about $2.2 trillion, and this is about 40% of Japan's GDP. Then, how Japan is doing in international context? Regarding the border control, Japan, like other countries, including the US, has taken precautionary measures. Japan has been positively cooperating with many countries, both through international fora such as WHO and G7, and bilaterally. In bilateral cooperation, for example, in response to requests from countries to provide Avigan, Japan has completed arrangements with 45 countries to provide Avigan. Next, please. Sorry, this one is fine. Sorry, please go back. Thank you. Yes, I would like to update on our consulate's activities. Since the outbreak of the COVID-19, the consulate has started to partially employ telework. We keep our consular desks open with slightly reduced hours so that we can continue to meet the needs of consular services while reducing the risk of infection. We keep Japanese residents informed of the situation regarding the pandemic through emails and our homepage. Since mid-March, almost all of the on-site meetings, events have been canceled, but some of them are carried out virtually using online communications. For example, the gathering of Nashville Cherry Blossom Festival in early April was postponed. This is a festival which are co-organized with the JUST. However, we will have a virtual festival with contributions. We could have a virtual festival with contributions of videos by various organizations and individuals. We had taiko drum performance, kimono dressing, tea ceremony, etc. I participated with a video message, and the consulate staff offered a video origami workshop. Our consulate created an Instagram account, and we are making a variety of interesting posts. For example, learning Japanese language and culture, a video of cooking teriyaki chicken, and Japanese fencing kendo demonstration. When you have time, please take a look at our Instagram with the keyword Japan in Nashville, as well as our Facebook. Next slide, please. Due to the COVID-19 situation, the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games was postponed for 1 year, and it is now scheduled to start from July 23rd, 2021. The name continues to be Tokyo 2020. Tokyo Olympic Committee will work together with Japanese government, Tokyo Metropolitan Government, IOC, and other relevant organizations to carry out preparations for the Games following these three principles. First is to prioritize the health and safety of athletes, spectators, stakeholders, volunteers, and staff. Second is to reduce the cost impact of postponement and promote public interest. Third is to simplify and reduce the complexity of the games to ensure sustainably and ensure they can be organized efficiently, safely, and sustainably in this new context. We expect the games to become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of humanity working together as one. Both in the US and Japan, we have been experiencing difficult times to balance our economy and the prevention of the disease compatible. In closing, I hope our close bilateral relations will be even stronger by jointly tackling the current challenges. We are all in this together. Let's share our experience and wisdom and jointly overcome the difficulties. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Consul General. We really appreciate your comments today on the variety of topics that impact not only U.S.-Japan relations, but also Tennessee and Japan relations. For those in the audience, this is an excellent time to please type in your questions. And then we will get to your questions as we move through the balance of our conversation today. So you can access the Q&A screen by moving your mouse to the bottom of the screen, and there should be maybe a little chat bubble there. Click on that, and then a new window will pop up on the right side of your screen, and you can then just fill in your question, and I'll see them, and I'll be able to ask those questions for you. So please, let's have some of your questions today. Well, let's start, Consul General, because the pandemic is really, I mean, it's totally upended the world and really has changed how we just go about not only our daily lives, but also our businesses, and engage in our business as well. And Japan seems to have had, based on your slides and everything that I've read and heard over the last few months, has had significantly greater success than many other countries addressing and slowing the spread of COVID-19. Some reports, as you've even indicated, I think the quick ability to ramp up and actually implement testing throughout the whole population and make that available, as well as even maybe some cultural aspects that are different, say, from the United States. For example, bowing instead of maybe shaking hands, and just other, and also the good use of face masks when out in public. What can other countries learn from Japan and some of these customs that may help them fight COVID-19, in, say, here in the United States or even at the state level?
Okay, John. Frankly speaking, no definite reason has been identified for Japan's relatively good performance. However, it is pointed out by some experts that several points could be a part of reasons. For example, as you noted, high awareness of hygiene, wearing masks and washing hands often, and relatively good medical system. And Japan puts its efforts to contact tracing to prevent and cope with cluster infection. And also maybe voluntary cooperation of Japanese people, like, their stay home was not an order, but a request by the government, but they kind of followed that request.
And just so I'm clear, so when you say the government, you're talking about there was more of a national kind of strategy and a plan that was then put together by the government and then announced to the people, and the people then were following this kind of national approach. Is that correct?
Governments is, as you know, the for Japan, but of course, government are in close cooperation with their municipal governments. So
Right.
that each municipal governments, according to their own situations, cope with disease, like encourage people to do such and such things. Yes, but so they are kind of
Right.
closely cooperating together.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that's a good system, maybe a good approach that we could maybe look to here in the United States. And that kind of leads me to my next question. So you cover actually a 5-state area. What has been your interaction with the governments of those 5 states? Does anyone stand out in particular? Maybe, they're implementing this policy or procedure that you believe has actually been helpful here in the United States?
Okay, I understand that each state has different situation, and I trust all the state leaders do their best to take into account their state's situation and the experts' opinions. Having said this, one unique aspect of Tennessee's situation I observe is that the fatality rate is relatively low.
Oh, okay. Well, great. One last question on the pandemic. We'll move on to some other topics. But, because this is, I think, an opportunity for our countries and maybe even our state, Tennessee, to collaborate with Japan and for Japan to collaborate, with us in terms of maybe some partnerships to address COVID-19, whether maybe on healthcare or economic, business policies and business collaboration. Do you see any potential partnerships there?
Yes, I think there are many ways for the partnerships. For example, we can cooperate within G7. Past March, the leaders of G7 has declared a statement and agreed to cooperate to coordinate necessary public health measures to protect people at risk from COVID-19, to restore confidence, growth, and protect jobs, to support global trade and investment, and to encourage science research and technology cooperation. Especially between Japan and the US, Japanese Prime Minister Abe and US President Trump agreed to cooperate closely on measures to prevent the spread of the virus, including the development of drugs and vaccines. In addition, COVID-19 has pushed the world to adopt digital solutions in many aspects of our lives. Japan and US had signed digital trade agreement past October, and I believe that Japan-US digital cooperation is world-leading. Telemedicine and education have high potential in terms of digital cooperation amid this pandemic.
if I'm a U.S. business, and let's say, for example, I'm in the telemedicine space, and I'm interested in pursuing maybe or exploring some opportunities that may exist in Japan, a lot of times I can use the Export Assistance Office here in the United States. It's part of the U.S. Commercial Services, part of the Department of Commerce. But is there a group or organization that I can maybe reach out to on the Japan side and maybe go more direct, and maybe they could facilitate any type of introductions or helping me and my company identify and explore opportunities in Japan?
Maybe according to some organizations or companies are kind of very positive about that, but I understand that they have just started to promote it. But if there are some individual, hospitals or maybe business doing that, you can reach them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because I know there's going to be, we usually provide some good information on potential opportunities, and I think sometimes what we lack or what we don't provide is, well, how do I do it? And so I appreciate that, because I think it's helpful for business to kind of, what's the next step? So thank you for that. Let's move to some other areas that we've got a couple of questions here. One question from former Ambassador Kornblum, Ambassador to Germany from the U.S. A major debate has broken out between the U.S. and Europe over internet regulation and the taxation of American internet companies. What are Japan's approaches to these issues, especially privacy of data and taxation? This is kind of going to digital, the digital tax that we're seeing many countries discuss.
Yeah. Okay. We have an agreement with the U.S. regarding the digital trade. So vis-a-vis U.S., we kind of very arrangement to kind of promote the digital trade, addressing the tax issues.
Okay, great. So last year, the U.S.-Japan trade agreement was signed by both countries back in October, and took effect January 1. And recently, Ambassador Lighthizer has talked about a second phase, or there's always anticipated to be a second phase, and he mentioned that during his recent testimony in Congress. I guess it was last week. I don't know, these pandemic weeks kind of all blur together, but I think it was last week. And they're considering maybe a second round. There have been some tensions in the past over automobiles, steel and aluminum, and even further expanding the agreement to cover even more sectors in agriculture. What remains to be done in those negotiations, and what do you believe to be the prospects for further agreements between the U.S. and Japan on topics like that?
I understand that it's agreed that negotiation will continue towards agreement in sectors like automobiles and auto parts.
Do you think, will there be any further conversations? Do you think, will it expand to cover more in the agricultural sector or other sectors in which I know U.S. companies have in the past complained to the government? Do you think it'll expand, or it'll just be limited to auto and auto parts?
I'm sorry, I don't have any information as to whether it's limited or it could be possible at the moment. But right. My understanding is that we have recently agreed on agricultural products, like mutual ones, as I explained. And next, we are going to move on to the negotiation about industrial products like automobiles and auto parts.
Oh, great. Because I know that is always a very hotly contested issue, not only with Japan, I know from at least the president's perspective, also with Europe as well. So hopefully those conversations will be able to begin earlier or sooner rather than later. I know the pandemic has kind of slowed down some of this, but hopefully I've noticed if the EU and UK are negotiating virtually, maybe the US and Japan can do the same. Well, let's move over to a little bit to maybe security, because again, I think security in the Pacific region is critical to U.S. security as well, and also to the security of Japan. And there are over 50,000 U.S. military personnel based in Japan. which, until recently I didn't realize this, but that's more than any of the other 150 or so countries where Americans are deployed around the world by a wide margin. And Japan is really the only country that even hosts a U.S. aircraft carrier. The Japan-U.S. alliance is obviously key to security and stability in Northeast Asia for both of our countries. What do you believe is the kind of the glue that kind of holds this military-to-military relationship together, especially now as we're approaching the 60th anniversary of the formation of that alliance? And I know that over time there have always been some peaks and valleys in that relationship, and even now today there is some issue over some military bases in U.S. military bases in Japan. So what do you think actually allows that to stay has allowed it to stay together for such a long period of time?
Yes, as you noted, the U.S. and Japan have shared values and interests in security, in securing stability of Asia. And the security treaty has contributed to the peace and stability and prosperity in the region and also the world. So I think the securing stability would serve to kind of for the interests of both countries.
Right. Well, yes, and I think that's correct. That's good. So one area that you and I briefly talked about at the beginning when we were waiting for the participants to join us, I was talking about the recent tension between China and, say, India, so two of the larger countries in the region, and their dispute along the border. What impact do you think something like that, or is that an area of concern for Japan?
Yes, as I mentioned, John, that all the things are interrelated, so we'll be closely watching the situation.
And and I've noticed, for example, that Japan really took a strong leadership role when the U.S. withdrew from what was then the TPP. And I really I've said this before to your predecessor. I really commended Japan for stepping up like that, because I was afraid the whole arrangement would fall apart. Do you see Japan maybe taking a more active role in, say, helping maybe India and China or any other countries, maybe as disputes arise in that area, taking more of an active role in helping them resolve those disputes?
Maybe Japan's way is rather kind of bilateral, like we kind of have good relations with India, and also we are kind of having good relations with China. That I think is the way. Instead of just getting just into the interrupt their relations, like we'll make good relations with both of them, India and China.
Right. Well, and it's kind of going on both the China relationship and also with the I always get the name wrong, but is it the RCTPP now? I always forget the new name for it. But China has expressed an interest in joining. The UK has expressed an interest in joining. Do you see the potential for either of those two countries to join the alliance, and what impact do you think that will have on maybe influencing whether the U.S. Seeks to join?
So you were kind of considering about the influence of the enlarged TPP and its influence over the U.S. trade. And
yes,
I would say that maybe TPP might be kind of expanding its memberships, but with regard to the trade between U.S. and Japan, we have concluded the bilateral agreement, and that agreement enables the tax reduction to the level similar to that's deducted in TPP.
Right. Okay. We've had several questions today regarding racial and social justice in the U.S. And, the killing of George Floyd here in the United States, as well as so many other Black Americans. has prompted rallies and protests, not only here in the United States, but also around the world. In fact, in Tokyo, I read that thousands recently marched in solidarity with U.S. protesters, and a Black Lives Matter Tokyo movement has even begun with the goal of paving the way to introduce conversations about racism in, here in Japan. What are your thoughts on the last several weeks, and what do you see in Japan? What impact will that have in Japan on some of these issues?
Okay, John. It is very heartbreaking that this case occurred. I have various feelings and thoughts about.
Consul General? Did we lose the Consul General?
It looks like we did. Let's pause for 1 second and see if she's
able to
comes
come back.
back. Yeah.
Okay. That was going to be an interesting answer. I'm disappointed.
Okay, I think she might be back. Consul General?
I thought maybe it was something I did, so I'm glad it wasn't.
Don't take it personally, John. I think this is this is technology.
And if she can hear us, it may be helpful if she turns off her video. That way we can at least.
Let's see. Yeah, it says due to low bandwidth. Oh, there she is.
Go.
Consul General, can you hear us?
Yes.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, we did not hear really any of your response to the question on. So I'm sorry, we completely lost you. So I know it's going to be a good answer. So I would love to hear if you wouldn't mind maybe repeating your answer. That would be great.
Not at all. Okay. This case was very heartbreaking for me, and I have various feelings and thoughts. Could you hear me?
Yes. Now we can hear you now. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have various feelings and thoughts about this case, and it would be more than if I talk about them. However, one of the things which came to my mind was the spirit of SDGs, to leave no one behind. It was adopted by UN member states in 2015 when I was working at the UN Women Japan Liaison office in Tokyo. This spirit of leaving no one behind embodies the word without discrimination, which needs to be followed by everyone. And this goal is difficult to achieve, but I think it is very important.
Well, no, and I would agree with you, and I think most Americans now are coming around to understanding what that really means of not leaving anyone behind. I think it's a good way to look at it, and maybe we can learn, from the example from the UN and even your time there. That would be something maybe that you could share with us here in Tennessee. We would, I'm sure, appreciate it. Does anyone else have? Oh, that would be great. Does anyone else have any other questions that they would like to ask the Consul General? This would be a good time. I mean, I can come up with some more, but I don't know if they would be as interesting to everybody as they maybe would be just to me, considering I'm kind of a trade nerd and all the rest. But, well, if we don't have any other questions, I would like to thank Consul General Fukushima for your time today and sharing your insight and your thoughts on one question maybe I think we can ask. I think this would be a good one, just kind of a wrap up, is what would you like us to know about Japan, maybe that we don't, maybe that you wouldn't think that maybe we would know, or something that you think would be helpful to us, especially in, these kind of definitely challenging times. What would you like maybe to end with? I think that would maybe be a good wrap up.
Okay, probably I think Japanese creativity and innovation is one aspect of Japan, which is kind of attractive, which may be attractive to you, but maybe you've already known about this. So what maybe I think would like to Americans to know about is charms of Japan, especially charms of Japanese handicrafts and charms of local places in Japan. In our Instagram, I'm introducing my experience in Japanese handicraft making and American youth participating in the JET program, our exchange program to teach English in Japan, share their experience of their local life in Japan. So please visit our Instagram with Japan in Nashville.
Oh, that's great. Well, I think I've seen some of those. I think they're really fascinating. My
Thank
children
you.
love origami, and so any chance they get to watch them, to learn more of things to make, I mean, they always take that opportunity. So thank you very much for doing that and sharing Japanese culture with us here in Tennessee. I know we really appreciate it. Well, I want to thank I don't see any more questions here. I'm looking one more time. So Consul General, thank you so much for your time today. I know how busy you are. There's just so much going on right now. So we really appreciate your time and your thoughts and your insight on U.S.-Japan relations and also Tennessee-Japan relations. And we hope that you'll that we can have you back sometime, maybe in the near future. We'd like to hear more updates on the Olympics and U.S.-Japan trade and investment. So, and also thank you very much for all that you do for our community. We really appreciate it. It's really so nice having you in Nashville and in Tennessee. It just adds so much to our state. So thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the program and learned something today. So thank you all for participating. And we're going to end our program today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Consul General.
Thank you very much.